बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप सभी लोगों का यहाँ पे आने के लिए और हमारी टीम का साथ देने के लिए। और हम यहाँ पर खड़े हैं क्योंकि जब आप लोग आते हो तो हमें प्रोत्साहन मिलता है। तो
One second. Rishi, what on earth are you trying to emulate your favorite drivers' podium celebrations?
yes, Nico Rosberg spoke in Spanish.
Or so we assume.
We didn't get it, but we do know that speaking in the colloquial terms, post winning a race can always win you fans and you'll not be booed on the podium. So let's just clap for Nico. Thank you, Nico. Thank you.
Actually, he's been doing this consistently, and I don't even know how many races. I mean, what is he, a linguist as well?
That's why he's been losing to Hamilton, because he's not looking at the race setup so much at the language setup. But he strikes back. The penultimate race in the F1 World Championship 2014 has been won by Nico Rosberg, Mercedes GP. Another 1-2, another record set straight. But thank you so much, Nico, because now you give us something to look forward in the double points fiasco at Abu Dhabi. So great. Thank you to Nico. Also thanks to Lewis Hamilton, because, he spun and then he got some drama and he got back, and wasn't comfortable for Nico for sure.
Absolutely. He was totally uncomfortable all through the race. Although his post race comment was like, I never let Lewis get within striking distance. Mm-hmm. But it always seemed like Hamilton was far quicker.
Well, far quicker. I don't know what he's won in those tires, but he's just understood something that Nico hasn't. But the good thing is, yes, the fight always makes it a bit interesting for the people who see, for people like you and me.
And I'm going to add to that. Lewis Hamilton has found a very interesting supporter in Felipe Massa, his championship rival from 2008.
And when they kept coming together in back in the McLaren Ferrari days, and they've almost pushed each other in the paddock. So, what has Massa actually said?
Massa said that he will not help Nico win the World Championship because he wants to win in Abu Dhabi and not come second. And he said that Lewis deserves this year's championship. What do you think?
Okay, no matter how much people label us as Nico favorites or whatever, we still want to turn around and say, yes, Lewis has had the pace, he's been quick. We've had our doubts in favoring in that front, but maybe it wouldn't be wrong to say that yes, he's deserved it well.
I think so. And it's good you bring it out, because let's put the record straight. It's not that we are Nico Rosberg fans or Lewis Hamilton's. Maybe it's a 51-49 if that's the selection that one would make. But you and I love the fact that Rosberg has been able to deliver a fight and make this championship interesting, much like Vettel made it boring for all these years.
Imagine if that was not the case. All the teams would have got together and said, okay, take the V6 hybrids out, it's boring, only one driver is winning, etc., which is anyways being talked about in the paddock.
Yeah, and that's we should come to after we celebrate all the fun we had in Brazil.
A lot of fun we had in Brazil, a lot of fun Massa and his son had in Brazil. Massa driving very well, getting a penalty, still having the pace to cover that penalty and the other drivers, and he asked for the soft compounds purposefully from Pirelli, and he got lucky with those.
And I love the t-shirt that his son wears. My daddy drives for Williams F1. Rishi, why don't we get you a t-shirt? Why don't you have a son or a daughter for that matter? Right, saying my daddy speaks on the Inside Line Formula One podcast.
Okay, you want a son? I'm okay with that. Why is the marriage such a big clause?
Well, in the part of the world we come from.
I have a get out clause in this contract. Okay. Coming back to the race, Massa, great podium, great for the fans, great for him. Raikkonen, fantastic two-stop strategy. I mean, racers were not even able to hold tires in a three-stop, but I don't know how he did this. He's been doing this since the Lotus days, and he was looking like he was giving Alonso a tough time. And if he'd not had that goof up in the pit stop with the jacks, I believe he would have just finished in front of Fernando.
Which brings me to, of course, what everyone else even thought of when they saw the race. That was Ferrari's way of publicly declaring that that's it, bye-bye Fernando Alonso, the man who could command to get any car out of his side, any Ferrari-powered car out of his sides, couldn't do that to Kimi Raikkonen in Brazil. What a public display of hatred.
I think we should call this podcast Kimi is Faster Than You. Okay, coming back to that, Raikkonen making news again when he turns up in the post-race conference and says, I didn't know where I finished.
He should be the brand ambassador for the Inside Line Formula One podcast, Rishi Kapoor.
Are we that stupid? Okay, another driver who did really well, according to me, was Hulkenberg. He had a reverse three-stop strategy, and he led the race for a few laps, which is, I think, the only non-Mercedes
Yes, the
chassis.
only non-Mercedes driver to actually have led the race after Ricciardo's win in Belgium earlier this year.
Another guy who got his money's worth was Jenson Button. Brilliant. I think race after race after race, he's just reminding that Formula One without him is going to be incomplete. And I don't know what McLaren are thinking, but if I was McLaren, I would just say, Jenson, just relax. You're there for next year.
Yeah, it's a very interesting dilemma, I guess McLaren is in. We all know, and even Alonso now knows he's joining McLaren next year. I think the dilemma that McLaren is facing is, should we have Jensen in for 1 year or 2 years? My guess is they would have approached Button to race for a year and then give the seat to Magnussen. Because let's face it, Magnussen hasn't done too badly in qualifying. Maybe in the race pace he still needs to pick up.
But is he Kvyat good?
I wouldn't know. I mean, it's something for the paddock insiders to know. I don't even know if Kvyat is that good, but we'll come to that. So my feeling, coming back to the Jensen issue, is Jensen is saying, hey guys, you know what, I will wait, but I need 2 seasons to race, not a season. You figure out your life if you need me. If you don't need me, I'm out. And which is why his point of, I need to feel wanted, probably came out earlier in the day.
You know, if I was McLaren, I would think, hey, for me, Alonso is the guy I'm getting in. For me, I want him to look at championship lead and, developing the car, etc., etc. Jensen is great. But why not keep Magnussen and save a lot of millions?
Well, if I was McLaren, I'd do something even more radical. Get Magnussen to qualify in the car and then get Jensen to race it on the Sunday.
Very well put, my friend. Well, somebody who designs and manipulates very well is Bernie Ecclestone. Earlier statement said Formula One is in a crisis. We need to distribute money well. The latter statement, which happened in the Brazilian Grand Prix, was Formula One is not into a crisis. Teams that do not have the money need to spend more wisely.
I am actually going to laugh out on this, Rishi, because he said he was the one who probably was to blame for the crisis as well. And then suddenly the blame has been put on the teams for having outspent themselves, which, by the way, is also true in its own way. Because in Formula One,
yes,
the more the money, the faster you go. Although Ferrari aren't the best example for that, but Red Bull is. And maybe Mercedes this year as well.
Okay, so now that you bring up the Red Bull example, Red Bull ended up saying that when we were the midfield team, when we were a smaller team, we didn't spend so much. But we probably looked at the future, a promising one, and you have Red Bull's backing. The energy drink actually pours a lot of dollars on your front wing and your rear wing, and you get the championships.
Absolutely. Let's remember that in Formula One, there are 2 types of teams. There are the Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, etc., whose core business is not Formula One. Their core business is selling cars or selling energy drinks. And they use Formula One as a marketing platform for that core business. Whereas if you see the midfield teams, which is the Sahara Force India, Sauber, Lotus, Caterham, not really, Marussia, etc., the core business for these teams has been to go racing. And what they do in turn is the money they make from racing is the money they put back. And the problem here is they don't make enough money in Formula One.
So the problem clearly is the sport makes money. It's not a pauper. It just needs to distribute the pie very well. Bernie has to learn to let go.
Yes, and I like when you said the sport makes money because you and I don't on the Inside Line Formula One podcast. But I'm going to add another statistic to this, Rishi.
Yes.
Formula One is probably the only sport making so much money after the Olympics and the Football World Cup.
And Olympics and the Football World Cup, what happened? Once in 4 years or something like that?
And we go racing once every 12 days.
Imagine, we need that to happen more often. When we go racing, I don't know what engine we're going to be picking up because some teams are saying we've spent a lot of money on the V6 hybrid, let's keep it. Some teams are saying, oh, we want the V8s back because it's very, very fan friendly, it makes a lot of noise. Which one is going to be the future? Because the paddock is talking and having a distributed opinion about this.
We are going to see the politics of the powertrain play out in the near future. Bernie has all the race organizers on his side saying we want the V8s, we don't give a damn about the environment. We want something that sounds really well. Whereas Mercedes is the one saying, listen, we need to go the hybrid way because that's the future of automotive technology in terms of powertrains. So the paddock is split. Of course, Renault and Ferrari want to go back to V8 because they were good back then. And personally, I think we shouldn't make the shift so soon. We need a stable regulation because every time we make a shift like this, the first teams to get affected are the smaller teams, like we keep talking about them. I think we should stick to V6 hybrids, even though they don't sound too well, Rishi.
And I'm sure they'll come up with a solution of how they can sound well. Probably they'll hire somebody to make the noise on a mic or something.
Band Baja Barat.
Yeah, probably you and I can go do the. Okay, we know all the sounds. We'll also tell you what's going to come up in the next edition of the Inside Line F1 podcast. We're going to talk about the safety car rule tweak. We're going to talk about the survival of the small teams, the double point fiasco in Abu Dhabi. What is the permutation combination between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg?
And very crucially, if Rosberg wins because of double points, will or will it not be a credible victory? Over and out.